Cedric is my guest today. Very happy to have you here. We're actually working close together, and I think it's really interesting to speak about you, speak about your story, and what are you doing right now, and what are your takes on the future. So just to give you a little bit of background, Cedric is one of the co-founders and CTO of FrontNow. You're an AI SaaS company. You're doing pre-sales in e-commerce, and you have experience with companies or working at companies like Salesforce, Coca Cola, and Daily Deal, which are, of course, well-known companies. So, yeah, later we will also speak about your company, your takes on AI, but first I would really like to start with your personal stories. Maybe you can just give you a short intro about yourself and how did you start working in tech?
Yeah, first of all, thanks, Bela. Thanks, Leo, for the invitation. I always love opportunities to talk about AI in the future because I do AI even before the word was like famous. And I founded my first company when I was 15 years old. So it's 17 years ago. So it's quite some time. And I'm really looking forward to all the things that come right now. But with FrontNow, it's the first time again that I built something myself that is based on AI. We are building website ChatGPTs, if you like. We can go deeper into tech later, but the idea is to bring all the knowledge that the, let's say, merchant or website provider has into the ChatGPT as a RAG application. But we also do other applications like search or enrichment of data and so on. So this is what I do right now. But where do I come from? I came from this point where I wanted to do something with web. I had a stepmother, like the evil stepmother, that was always unplugging my network cable to the modem back then. So we had this cable going through the house, and she was always like, no, you don't go to the internet. It's an evil place. Don't do it. And as a child, obviously, I did the opposite. And this was before 2000. Back then, there was like super slow internet connection. And I was looking into programming in books. It was like really with paper. I don't have that anymore. I have paperless or all paperless at home now. But back then, I was learning in books since I didn't have internet. But I was capable of plugging in a new cable that she didn't found and tried to develop some things. And while doing school, that's where I came from originally.
Yeah, cool. Very interesting. And your first company, or what you have in your LinkedIn as your first company, was Spickmich. I think really interesting. You told me before you could your teachers there and made pretty big headlines back then. How did it all came together? You started there as a software engineer, but also the initiator. What happened there? And
yeah, so we were like 4 founders. We developed in the living room of Philip. It was a very small room, but we hacked it together. And because there was something, I think, for universities already, you could rate your professor, but it wasn't there for teachers. And I'm still in school, so I was like, oh, let's do that for teachers. It was a great idea. We had a good PR guy, and so we had a lot of users, millions of users. And every time a teacher got a hint that there was something like this, because he could print out the certificate for the teacher. And then some people gave it to them. And the next day we got sued by them up to the highest court. And every time we won, and that was great. I was sitting together with Stefan Raab and stuff like that. So it was a fun time, and it was an interesting time. We had some investors who wanted to be us the new Facebook, because Facebook was not launched in Germany yet. But we didn't want to go this route, because we knew when you go for like little kids and make this open for everybody, it could go wrong. So we said, let's not do it. And I was a fan of cloud solutions back then already. So everything was like automatically scaling. Everything was like a single page application, things nobody heard of here in Germany at that time. And our investors, nothing against our investors now, but the investors back then were like, yes, you have to buy hardware, because hardware is good stuff, right? You buy a load balancer for 250,000 euros and servers and stuff like that, and then you host it yourself. Then the company has more value. This was obviously wrong, and I knew it, but we had to do it. And that was the time where I decided I will never, ever do something again with investors. I changed my mind. But yeah.
Cool. So yeah, very interesting. So before that, would you say you always knew you want to become a founder, or did that came later? And maybe also how did like projects, for example, like Spickmich, where you maybe had the idea, but also started in a row behind the founders, maybe a little bit to the outside. How did this shape your perspective as a founder?
So for myself, it was clear that I will be in a specific role where I don't need to have a certificate from a school. So either as an employee or as a founder. So I didn't spend too much time in school. I broke everything up. I did not study because I knew I will do my way. It's not the way I would suggest people to do it. Back then, there were actually no nice ways to study very innovative technology and product design and stuff like that. I founded one course with Hasso Plattner in Potsdam about design thinking that I would have taken if I was back then. I can recommend doing those. I would not recommend to do informational studies because most of the people that I see and hire right now that have a study background are mostly like very hard thinkers, but not doers. I love people that have experience in building things, and that's what I wanted to do as well. I had this short course into big enterprise as well, and I felt my energy level was dropping because you were this like little part of the big machinery, and this was not my cup of tea. I somehow knew that I wanted to be a founder and influence a lot of people. That's always my goal. That's why when I look for ideas, I'm always trying to get as many people unemployed as possible. That is my goal, right? It's like making sure people get unemployed. Doesn't sound that, but hopefully they will find a different job in the future.
Sure.
You should not say that. I'm just giving them more time. That would be if there would be like a legal here, then they would say, don't say it.
No, but it's your personal take, and I think it's rather interesting to hear your like personal controversial takes on things than just saying things everyone says. So
yeah, and it's not recorded, right? So
no, of course not. We would never put this on YouTube. So
YouTube is nobody is watching. TikTok is the problem.
we actually do have TikTok now, so you can find it there. But after your station at Spickmich and some other companies, you worked with Daily Deal, also Salesforce, Coca Cola. 2 questions. So what have you actually done there? First question. And second question, what lessons did you took there? It's quite an interesting experience, I guess, to work at Salesforce, and not the Salesforce today, but like Salesforce 10 years ago. What were your biggest lessons there?
Yeah, what did I do? Mostly nothing. And that's what most of the people do there. It's like you do mostly nothing, but you earn a lot of money. So the offer was great, and it was like, okay, let's do that. Let's change the whole company. Did not work out because there are so many other people that don't want change because it means work. We had like meetings at Coca Cola, for example, where we had this big meeting room with 50 chairs, and they were all filled all the time. There was sometimes even the vice president of Coca Cola Germany there. And we were discussing the border radius of a button. And I was like looking at the clock and was like, if everybody is paid as good as I am in this round here, this button costs us 50,000 euros, right? And I was like, this cannot be the way how you should work. I want to be in a company that is like really having a great output and not wasting money. Same with Salesforce. With Daily Deal, I came into a very interesting time where Google just bought Daily Deal and it was sold again. So I was free to do whatever I wanted. And I went in there, and it's always interesting when a new CTO comes into a company for the current employees. The first thing I did was I was like firing all the DevOps. I was super popular because actually nobody liked the DevOps. That's the thing. The DevOps were there because they were needed, but they were super unfriendly and nobody liked to talk to them. They had a door and there was a sign on it, don't open it. Yes, it was like the most unfriendliest people at the company. And I was like, if that's the problem and there's no change because they don't talk or they don't like to talk with other people at the company, they are not a good fit. And you can do this with managed services, right? As I said, even with Spickmich, we used, I think it was Heroku or something like that. I think it's not on anymore, but I love managed stuff, right? Because they do probably a better job than when you do it yourself. Setting up your own Kubernetes cluster is cool and nice until it's breaking. I like to have a solution where I can call someone and scream at him, and 5 minutes later it's solved. I would not do this with my own team, so it's more like a family, right? So I try to keep out those very critical parts because it doesn't really make sense to hire people that are super expensive, super experienced in a very specific part. It makes sense for those companies who like provide managed service. So that was one of the steps I did. And I always try to change culture in those companies to talk more to each other, because I saw that the departments were not talking to each other. Tech department was always like this corner. There are people sitting in the corner, they are doing tech. And I said, this is not going to happen anymore. I will put developers everywhere in the office, right? So there's a sales agent, there's a developer, and they're talking. And with that, they were talking in the kitchen, and there was like some communication going up, and the product was getting nicer. The product itself, Daily Deal, was from the beginning shitty, but the new owner did not want to change the business model. So I had to quit sometime, even though they were paying a lot of money.
Okay, I see. So managed service, one learning, people need to talk more, and third one, don't work at big companies.
I like small companies. I like Craigslist, for example. 50 people, €1 billion in revenue. Everybody is a billionaire. That's what I like, right? I'm not sure I can achieve it. I think it's a big achievement if you can do it. And I think it gets more achievable with AI. There will be those 1 or 2 or 3 people companies that make $1 billion in revenue with AI. I really believe that. Is that good? I don't know. I don't even think so, because you accumulate a lot of wealth on very few people. So probably we have to change our culture, our government, and everything else around it, that it still stays fair. Otherwise, you have only like even more super rich people. But from technology point of view, when I would do a new company, I would always think first, can I replace that person with an AI?
Maybe a good transition to your current company, FrontNow. First of all, maybe you can just, do you want to become a big company then? If you don't like big companies?
Money-wise, yes. I want to have €1 billion on my bank account, but I don't want to have 1 billion employees.
Okay, I see. Maybe just to give us an idea, the people who yet don't know the company, what are you actually doing at FrontNow? Or in other words, what problem are you actually solving there?
So with FrontNow, so our slogan is FrontNow makes sense. This doesn't really make sense if you say it without context. The idea is we build solutions for big enterprises that they can solve themselves right now. So the first thing we built is like a Trojan horse. It's ChatGPT for your website, right? We take all the content you have, we crawl the website, and then you put like a chat bubble on your website, and it knows everything about every product. It read all the manuals. It read all the things that you have on your website. It understands every image that's on the website. So you can, for example, say, I want to build a tree house, and then it will guide you step by step what you need, and it will provide you the products that you need if you're going for a DIY store, for example. But you can also ask it things like, what is the best chainsaw? That's not an easy question, because how do you define best, right? And that's where we are really good at, is building search technology that is going beyond similarity search. Since we are all technical, probably everybody knows like embedding search and stuff like that. That's just the first step. We are now having a tool set of things that we can use, but we try to bring them together with even smarter things. So when you ask for the best chainsaw, you have to ask back, what defines best for you, and give some options. For example, this is the strongest one, this is the one that has the longest chain, whatever, right? This is one of our products. Another product we have is Enhance. FrontNow Enhance is a product where you give in bad data from your products and you get out good data. Because every time we went to a big enterprise, we said, the only thing you have to provide us is good data. And then the advisor will be great. And they were like, aha, good data. That's the problem. Let's talk in 2 years again if we solve the problem. And we were like, oh God, this cannot be the reason we stop selling our advisors. So we decided to build a tool ourselves and integrated that into the advisor. So now when you have, let's say, missing attributes in your online shop, they are important. If you ask for, let's say, whatever, a specific lamp and you want a lamp that has a specific lumen, so brightness, then you have to have this property set on all products, not on 10 of 100. Otherwise, those other 90 will not be found. It's the same with filtering on this old school sidebar filtering. Probably everybody of you used that, where you just clicked on something and then all the matching products went away as well because they were not like provided with the attribute, so they were filtered out. And that's what we try to solve, not only for our product, but also for their product. And it makes the search better of them, it makes the filtering better, and it makes the SEO better as well. What we see is like an increase of 2-digit percentage of more traffic going to their website just by providing better descriptions for the products. And there we have a lot of more ideas coming up. We're looking into search and so on.
Yeah, it's very interesting. I saw your product, and I think like also from the business value that you very specifically can measure how it improves the business of your company is a big, not of your company, but of the company of your customers. I think it's a big value that you see it in the moment where you implement your product.
I'm happy about that. So I try to only build things that make sense, but I also think about the future, and I know the things we are building right now will be obsolete in a few years. So for me, websites at all will not be there in a few years. I know that all the time and I try to keep this in mind, but in the meantime, I want to provide the best user experience you can imagine for those users visiting the website. And we tackle every challenge we see often. So for now, this is good advice. Back then, there was no advice at all in the internet. You went to the store to get advice. When we asked people, why do you not use the store? One of the main reasons were, I don't have somebody I can ask things about, right? Some advisor that is walking through the shelves, sometimes hard to get at a DIY store. And we were like, okay, let's build something that does it. It's now possible. This was just before ChatGPT launched. And now even the employees in the store are using our advisor to answer the questions of the people, because if you find somebody at the DIY store, it's not the person from the department you're looking for, right? So he has then to call somebody to come to you. It's a pain in the ass. Now they can just ask that question into the app, and then they get the answer. They see in which shelf the product is, and so they are benefiting from this as well. So.
Yeah. Maybe before going more into those technical details and your takes on AI and the future, very plain question, but how did you meet your co-founders, and what was the actual spark to lead to starting a company, FrontNow?
I think it was a lot of alcohol. And it was why Corona. We were sitting together having those board game evenings, something nobody did before, but was a hype thing then. And we were like one of the first people that got Corona, like in January. I think it got popular in February. So we were early adopters on this as well.
I don't know if popular is the right word here, but I see what you're meaning.
Yeah, we were early adopters. So we were like, okay, let's do Corona parties because everybody of us is like already through this. But yeah, you cut this out just now. No, but the thing is, we could stay together. Even my one co-founder, Mark, was moving into my flat, and Bernie was coming by, and we were thinking about doing something else. There were like 2 years of doing nothing. I was like, I have to do something. And then we were thinking about different opportunities, and there were some ideas, and Bernie had one idea, my third founder from Munich, and he said, let's do something about product assortment optimization for supermarkets. So we started with that. That was our first idea, and we pivoted that idea. As we saw GPT-2, GPT-3 coming up, I knew there would be something like GPT 3.5 that would go through the roof. So I was like, let's shift all the energy we have, let's stop all the old projects, which was a bit of a gamble. So especially for our investors, when we came to them and told them, by the way, the product is not the same anymore. We do something totally different. But I think this is one of the very important things as a founder. You have to go with the market. And if you see an opportunity where you can win very easily, you should go for it if it's possible with your team, if it's a match. I always say it not only has to have a product market fit, but it has also to have a culture market fit. Does your team culture fit to the market, to your customers? And it was a perfect match. Enterprise, super enterprise with our team. We were like, we could sell anything. And then we decided to go for the thing that will go through the roof. And luckily ChatGPT came up and everybody was like calling us and saying, hey, we would like to have that.
Cool. Yeah, very interesting. Also the thought with team market fit. I think it's like super important because you always do have a natural way to go where, and you have a head start if you already know the market better, right? So yes. Maybe also because you said you pivoted, you said you pivoted multiple times actually.
Probably we will pivot again. So be aware.
At least to some new tech, but what major challenges also maybe in the early days you had? And it always sounds so easy and nice. Yeah, we founded a company, now we're making like a lot of revenue, but what maybe also didn't work so people understand that it's not like that there are problems you face, especially in the early days, and how to overcome them.
Yeah, we don't have problems. Everything is running smoothly. No, I think the hardest part is to stay aligned and to be like a family, at least with the founder team. We have 3 founders, 2 managing directors, 1 CTO, and everybody is different. And you can imagine when you put 3 people in a room that have a totally different opinion, that can go wrong, right? But that was the reason why we, in the very beginning, was taking coaching sessions, bringing in experts, because we knew there is something in it. Having different opinions about things is good. In my so I did some before, but none of them were successful. So I did an online grocery business 15 years ago and stuff like that, but it didn't went through the roof because it was too early. Or I did some things where I had a team around me, co-founders and hirings that were exactly like me. So they had the exact same problems I had. So it's not good. This time we decided to go for a team that is more different. And finally. And this time we have more trouble with communication. So that's the thing. You have to make sure that you have rules for it. And with the coaching, that helps a lot. And in the end, you have benefits from it because those different perspectives get you the right point. I would have been always too early with my ideas. Yeah, just to give you an idea, I just read that my first email about a concept that I had, it was called Sheep OS, like the sheep. And it was an interface where you could type in things and the computer would do things for you and answer your questions and do things. It was like 2007, so 17 years ago that I wrote this concept. And it reminds you of something that is coming up right now, right, with Claude and computer use and so on. But back then it would have been too early. The technology was not there yet. The people were not ready. And this time, for example, Mark is somebody who is, if he's onto something, he is really into it. So you cannot get him away from that. And when I tell him, hey, let's do something else, he's tell me why. And we discussed this to the end. But it's good because when in the end he says, yeah, if that's right, it's right. Because I know he was looking at it from multiple different other perspectives. So you make good decisions in the end.
Yeah, I think Mark also has a very close feeling of the market, right? What people want, because he's talking to them all the time. Last question in like general before coming to AI, like you said, timing is important, right? You had ideas being too early. What is your take or how is your view on the German AI landscape? And I would say timing, we joked about that we just bought a fax number because we thought it's funny to implement it as a marketing thing. But what challenges and opportunities do you see in the German market? For example, there are big companies having a lot of traction right now, completely focusing on GDPR. They built the same stuff like the US, just copy it, but GDPR. And then, what is your take on the German AI landscape in general, and what are opportunities?
Yeah, asking me things about the European AI Act is like asking me things about Donald Trump. You can only answer it wrong. But I think it's actually an interesting position here in Germany and the EU to build something here because you get this compliance done right. So this is, I think, a big benefit for us when we are working with enterprises. So you have to imagine we have, let's say, a sales cycle of a few weeks, and then it goes to legal and compliance. And they approve it within 1 day sometimes, because we provide them everything they need already, every certification, every diagram, everything you can imagine, because we've done it multiple times already. So if you are working with multinational companies, they have those processes implemented from Germany because we have the highest standards on those things. So it's a good starting point if you are targeting those customers. If you want to make the quick money and you don't care about regulations, then Germany is not the right market for you. You should go somewhere else, right? And it's easy to do that. Just go 2 times a year to Dubai and you have a company, do whatever you want. But being in Germany gives you a real proof, like made in Germany, and it's really easy. It's like sometimes people even don't check it correctly because they know if they do something wrong, it's on their side, right? Because the rules are like that. So it's a good point to say something about the AI landscape in Germany. I think we are way behind, probably because we are standing in our own way with those regulations, right? Looking at the friends of Aleph Alpha and all the others that have problems getting a foot into this market here. It's just because if you want to do it right, it takes more time, it takes more money, it takes more engineering power and better engineers that are paid millions a year in the US. So it's really hard to find those people that are capable of building foundational models or anything like that. It's not the best market, and the political environment here is not helping to change that for now.
Yeah, I see. So maybe coming to because you said companies are really fast when they work with you because you're GDPR compliant. I know that you also offer your product on premise actually to big companies, even though you're not a big fan of it, but you do it. So what is your actual like kind of tech stack, or what are you using in your product to make it available to those big customers?
Yeah, you have to cut this out with on-premise. I don't like it. It's just sometimes some people need it, and we try to avoid it as much as we can because on-premise always slows you down. If you do on-premise solutions, it's always pain in the ass, right? What we have is a small part that we provide as an on-premise solution, which is like a masking solution, so that we are not bringing personally identifiable information to the LLM. So we have a very small LLM that runs on their servers or on their cloud, sometimes even in their offices. enterprises. And then it masks everything that is like names, addresses, ages, whatever. And then this will be like replaced with placeholders and then sent to the LLM. And then we get the response back from the LLM and all the pipeline that works around it. So it's not just the LLM, but it's like to make it easy for now. And then it gets back those responses with the variables, and the server of our customers replaces that with the personal information again. I think that's an intermediate solution to make sure we are not hosting everything on premise, because we want speed, we want innovation. I don't know what next week or even in the next 12 days OpenAI is announcing, and we want to integrate all of that as fast as possible, and on-premise always slows you down on this. I think we have no customer that is fully on-premise, and that's nice. We would have the possibility, but I always try to talk them out. As soon as I see on-premise on any HubSpot ticket, I'm on it and try to make sure it's not going to be on-premise. But we could do it since everything we do is running on Supabase. So it's just Postgres and all that stuff. We are already using the task queue of Supabase. They just announced yesterday, for example, because we have a pre-release of this, and we try to keep everything encapsulated into Supabase together with some LLMs. Most of the time, Microsoft Azure, OpenAI services, because that's approved by our big enterprise customers since it's running in the EU and not going to the US, and we have European partners as contractors. But yeah, our main product is actually the pipeline behind it to make sure that we have the great enhanced result and that we have amazing answers that hallucinate as less as possible.
Yeah, so one question regarding the LLM, because I know this discussion, and my question is, how do you approach choosing the right LLM, especially for enterprise use cases, but also maybe because you already said you're using ChatGPT, the endpoint, or the GDPR compliant endpoint. I do have the discussions about open source models from the privacy aspect, but also from a cost perspective. What I think is really interesting, because we think it's not cheaper to actually use it, because you have to care about a lot more stuff around your actual LLM. What is your take on choosing the right LLM for enterprise?
Yeah, we have one engineer that does nothing else but comparing models, fine-tuning them, and so on. So I think his favorite word is fine-tuning, but he's looking at all the new models coming up, and it's a ton. It's a ton of models. From China, there are so many models coming up, and all the models, Llama 3.3, and even the European ones, the ones here and the ones from France. But right now, I would say the best model I would choose right now would be Claude 3.5, Sonnet 3.5. But most of our customers don't want that, right? They really want to have OpenAI models. And for now, it's mostly GPT-4o. We are playing around with the new version of o1 as well, and so on. Since we are already using agents to do the work, it's just another step of agent work. So we are not sure yet if it's a big benefit. At least it's a big benefit in speed now, since o1 got a lot faster than the o1 preview. But for open source models, we found out that the builds are a lot higher, as if we would use on-demand pricing of those providers. We are working a lot with Grok, with the new data center here in the EU. So they are building one up that is like totally solar driven and so on. So it's a nice thing, because they are also faster. They are models that they host. Some of them are just, I think Llama 3.3 is there yet, and so on. But the quality is not as good as the closed source ones. That's what I see. There are some coming up that are getting close, but they're not there yet. And we have multiple LLMs in those processes going on. For example, if we If you ask a question, we have the first LLM that does some screening of what you really want, then it builds up a different query, then it checks if the query was successful. So a typical agent, you would say, and it has to be fast. So sometimes it's hosted on Grok with an open source model like Llama 3.5 or whatever. 3.5, next generation. 3.2. And sometimes we use GPT-4 Mini and so on. And then it goes to a bigger model that is actually writing the answer. So it's always this idea of teacher. We are also building right now a fine-tuned version of open source models that is trained on retail data. And it has all the manuals of every product sold in the EU. So you can imagine the data set is huge, and it's a data set that OpenAI doesn't have. And that's the idea of having specific LLMs for specific use cases. AGI will not come by itself as one big company that says, here's AGI. It will be more like there are so many different expert models, they talk to each other. Right, and they government each other. There will be maybe even, let's say, a GPT police, because you always have to have that, right? There will be bad actors coming up trying to scam you or stuff like that. So there will be counterattacks. So I always say the companies that develop rockets always develop rocket defense systems as well. It's their business. So probably there's something like that will happen.
Yeah, I see. Very interesting the take on like AGI or also speed. So you do fine tune for speed. I think it also could have a cost perspective to it, but there's also a completely different layer or view on it. I think it's also a move of defensibility, right? So you want to build some kind of mod, so you're not, or you have a defensible position. And what are your thoughts on also app layer? Would you say that you're doing mainly app layer, or do you try to get into, for example, you said agentic workflow, but also fine tuning your own models? How do you try to be defendable against someone saying, okay, I can scrape a website and build a GPT wrapper and sell it to someone myself. I don't need you.
I would say we are building user experiences, not only text-based, because studies show that text-based chatbots are actually worse than using an interface. People hate to talk to chatbots. I'm building a chatbot, so it's a tough answer, but I actually hate chatbots. So I try to avoid those conversations, and because I could use a filter to go to what I want, right? If the filter is doing what I want. And that's why we try to minimize the text and improve the visual part. I believe in generative UI. We are not there yet. So if you go to V0 or anything like that, I talked to the CTO of Vercel about this, and it's nice to play around with human in the loop. You can build some nice interfaces, but if you want to do it like mainstream with everybody, and we have millions of people using our products every day, you don't want to just give it here. That's what the AI generated. So what we do right now, it's a mix of predefined components and giving them content from the LLM. That's what ChatGPT is doing now as well, I think since a month. You can ask, where can I get the best flowers? And then you will get a map with dots on it, and it will show you some logos and so on. So I think this is the direction where it will go. Ultimately, it will vanish at all. I think you will have your AI assistant, your personal AI assistant, let's call it Siri, or a Google Home Assistant or whatever. And this will be your interface to all the other AIs around. And our goal is to be the enterprise AI. When you have a question about a specific product, about availability, about some specific knowledge you don't have as the small LLM running on your phone, you can call our LLM and it will tell you all the knowledge it has right now about that product in real time. So there are two LLMs talking to each other, probably more in the future. There will be somebody in the middle as well, like Google, let's say. So for now, we publish a lot of content for our customers on Google, and then we will be referenced as a source for it. But or when you Google, when you types in something in ChatGPT, it will answer that question probably with some AI generated content that came from us.
Yeah, very interesting. So my next question would be what trends emerge in AI? You took that already. Generative UI, I think it's a super interesting part that you can, I always like to say, like hyper personalized, but you get like your own web UI. So you see your part in providing the web UI, or do you see your part on the enterprise side, helping them to connect to the right source of searching for it?
So if we now going this route to the future and love that route, I would say there is no web UI anymore. So bad luck to everybody who is developing interfaces. I don't think you have a job in the future. I had the same question from my little brother. He's just 18 and he's now thinking about what he has to study. And he was thinking about like development or something like that. Don't do it. This job will not be available in 10 years anymore, right? So everybody can develop and everybody can design things. Even me, who is not a good designer, can build fantastic invitation posters and stuff like that. So you don't need to be a developer to develop software in the future. So why should you study it? And we will have more of that coming up. I think domains will vanish. If you are investing now millions into a new domain, good luck. I think it's a waste of money. If you're building sophisticated interfaces as we do, keep in mind, probably in 10 years, there will be no interfaces of website anymore. There might be a discussion now, where is the data coming from? But I think there will be more like a protocol between AIs, like a robot TXT. It will be a bot TXT that tells you what answers that bot can give you, for example. But it will not be a graphical user interface because that would be a waste of time. Look at how chatbots now work. They are scraping the website, taking the HTML, throwing out the HTML, converting it into a markdown, and then just taking that as an information. So why waste the time and build a graphical interface? For now, it's still useful. And for the next 10 years, probably it's useful. But just keep in mind that probably in the future, your Siri will be way more powerful. Not yet. So even in English, tried it out. It's shit, but maybe next year or the year after that, or maybe 10 years. So I don't want to give you an exact time frame, but there will be this time where interfaces will only be the interfaces you would like to see in the style you have defined, dark mode or no dark mode, specific icons or whatever.
So maybe the last question, when with that bad outlook for even especially front-end developers you said you have a small brother. If you would start an AI company today, what problem would you tackle?
So if I'm a solo entrepreneur, I think I would build something with the AI that generates content for now. It's not something long term, but I think right now you can make a lot of money by just bloating the internet with content that is AI generated. A lot of people are doing it. Friends of mine are making a shitload of money. Like I'm talking about hundreds of thousands of dollars per month by just creating AI content, not standing in front of a kind of camera, talking in person, but taking an AI synthesia avatar and talking about the World War II or something on YouTube. Things like that. They make a lot of money. So if you want to make money, generate it sophisticatedly and structured for content platforms. But this is not a long-term game. If you ask me for my brother, I tell him to gather as many good skills you can get to be open for the new things. I'm fine what he's doing. He's going to work for a big retail company and he's doing a dual study program together with AI. So if you get deep into AI and you are the AI expert in a specific part, you will have a job. But the thing is, junior developers will not have a job. So if you start developing, keep in mind that you have to start at a senior level. That's strange, but it is like that. Nobody is hiring juniors. I try to change that with our company to have a, let's say, playground or labs or something like that, where we also hire juniors. So they are not working on the final product, but on prototypes, because I just think it's unfair that we are expecting like AI engineers with 15 years of experience. Even I don't have it. And I started to develop like AI interfaces. There were no AI at all yet. Try to have a specific topic of knowledge and be the best in it. That's my advice.
Yeah, cool. Wrapping it up, saying you need to get really good in one topic. And then I think also always starting a company is a good way, because you can become senior in your own company and then sell it or move somewhere else. So I want to wrap it up here. Thank you very much, Cedric. You will stay with us. We now do have a Q&A. Bela's running around with a microphone. So if you do have any questions regarding tech, AI, or how to start a company, let's go.
Yeah, hi. So my question is basically, for example, if I'm trying to swap my job to an AI job, like related to blockchain, what skills would you recommend to have before going to AI startup, basically? The basic trends that people prefer DevOps or people to know Kubernetes or something.
I think the base technology is not relevant. I think the important part of being a successful entrepreneur in the area of AI, for example, is to know what you want. It's prompt engineering, actually, right? Because you can achieve everything you want with a good prompt. Even if you want to code something, you have to give it the good prompt, right? And AI models will get better to understand bad prompts in the future. But for now, you have to be very specific of what you need. As more specific as you provide the information, the better the result will get. I'm doing some talks about how to use LLMs, and sometimes it's just repeating yourself. You still didn't do it right. Do it right. Have a look again. And with agents, if you work with agents a lot, most of them are shitty. The results are useless. We use a lot of GitHub Workspace Copilot. I'm a Copilot Workspace or something like that. And the results are just, yeah, if you tell it to change a color or something, it's working, but it's not in the state yet that you could say I could swap my job to a full AI job. If you would like to go deeper into the AI topic, I would recommend going into, I just talked to the founder of Stable Diffusion on the Zukunftspreis last week, and he is looking into video a lot. So he believes that there will be not like this typical graphical user interface anymore, but in the future you will have a stream of AI generated imagery. So you probably saw it with games that it looked a few hours of a specific game, and then you could use the cursor to play the game, even though it didn't know the code of the game, right? And the same thing will happen with any other interface in the future as well. You will open a fake Photoshop and you will tell it, please remove that, and it will do it because it understands the connection between the pixels. So going in this direction and building a system that can do this, that is not called Rabbit or something like that, would be a good idea. And just learning about those new technologies. Does it help that? Yeah.
Thank you both for the interesting chat, and Cedric, right, for sharing your experience. Question is regarding, you mentioned 4 co-founders of you in total. When you iterated through ideas, how did you approach that?
How I came up with the idea I wanted to do, or what?
Also, and as a recommendation, maybe how to iterate quickly on a lot of ideas?
So that's actually what I love to do, just go over a lot of things. And the question more is to, how do I say no to something, right? Because the thing is, you do a lot of things, but you have 2 times a year, you have this golden opportunity. That's what I believe. It's like this opportunity that changes everything in your life. And you have to develop a sense of this opportunity and then dig deeper into it, because there might be a million ideas. I have this red book. It's one of the last books I have that's written in paper from years ago, where I have all my ideas. Back there were like many things that have been developed now, but it's something where I write down my ideas that I cannot do right now. So I hope somebody else does it. But if I have time and the resources, I maybe do that, right? And then after a few months, I see, that idea is not as good as I thought, right? Because you always have this enthusiasm about a new idea in the first months. And then you start to develop it and find out, it's way more complicated than I thought. If you get over this hill, then probably it's a good thing. But if you feel like, I should stop it, just stop it and say no. Right.
Maybe to add also, you said founder market fit is also very important. So I guess, and working really deep into one topic, if you already worked in a specific field, because we know the problem as well, it always looks easier to do something else because you don't know the space yet, you don't know the problems there. So I guess working deeply into one specific area and then understanding it and understand what are the deep problems in that space, you get a way better feeling of kind of intuition, what is needed and what's not. Cool.
Yeah, having one question. So what do you think about taste in a way of how you structure or design a product? For sure, you're right, designing websites maybe go away with chatbots, but the overall design, how you like work with something, has to be done in a certain way by humans, because AI is so general. So if you have, for example, a product that extends some text from a user, you can tell it to copy the text. Basically, the user has written before. But if you want to create new products and want those to not be the same product every time with a different take on, you need a human to really bring taste and will into a product to work on it in a different way an AI would do it.
So first of all, having the same interface for mostly any application is not bad. People love to have the same interface, right? They don't want to learn new interfaces. It might look interesting to have a super fancy, sophisticated design, but I think studies show the more crazy the design goes and the more fancy it looks, the less the adoption rate is. So it's not the goal to have the best design, it's to have a design people are used to. That's why Apple is bringing back the calculator from the plastic calculator, right? Because it worked. And so try to stay with things that have worked before. And AI is really good at doing that because it's looking at all those things that have been done before. Mixing it up with new things, temperature, for example, giving it some room to do some variations of things. And if you train a model, you should always make sure to bring in new nuances of things as well. So make sure to do some crazy stuff in there as well, so it can think about new things. If you take, for example, text, and you think your AI is always generating the same text too often. I generate a lot of music myself, I would say. I'm now a producer, yes. I'm published on Spotify. Please follow it and listen it. I think it's called Kassenschlager. It has only bad music in it, but I was just wanted to try if I could do it. And some of them went crazy. But the idea was I just try to generate a good lyrics, and then I use Zuno AI or any other AI. I think Zuno for now is the best one, and generate music that sounds like it was written by a human. AI texts, if you do not prompt them correctly, are distinguishable. So you see it's ChatGPT. Don't write your best friends a ChatGPT birthday wish, because they will know, right? It's, oh, you love ChatGPT as well. Because ChatGPT has a specific pattern. For example, if you say, write me an email, the first line is always, hi, and then the name, and then I hope you're fine or you're doing good or something like that. Something you don't write, right? Try to use either things like Anthropic with a specific style of tone, or give it more examples of your usage. Maybe even do a fine-tuning or multi-prompting and tell it how to change it, because otherwise you will get into this hole where it's distinguishable as AI-generated text, and that's not what you want, even for interfaces and so on. Make it a bit more personal by prompting it. And I think personal messages will be the postcards of the future. So right now you're happy when you get a postcard handwritten, right? Now you can do it with a robot. I do that as well. Have a writing robot because I have a bad handwriting. But at least people think I wrote them a personal message. And it makes a big difference. When I invite for a dinner, I have 20 people, I have a no-show rate of 0% because it's a handwritten invitation, right?
So, yeah, sorry, but I actually write in my emails, I hope you're well, but okay, maybe I don't know.
I wish you well.
But there are those target words like dive or delve into. I think also Paul Graham said if he sees it, he directly knows it's ChatGPT written. So I think we have time for one last question.
Yeah, one last question. Pizza already got delivered, so if you want to eat it hot, be quick.
Thanks a lot, very insightful. So moving from analog to digital, products have become more prone to errors, and we have gotten quite used to seeing bugs on website all the time, to refreshing. And now moving to AI-based interfaces, I see that there's even more flakiness. Will we improve AI to a point where it's 100% actually, it gives us what we want, seeing from context? Or will we all accept that AI is so flaky, and we'll be like, okay, I'll just ask again and then see what happens? What's your take on this?
So have a look at OpenAI O1 Pro. What is it doing? It's doing 4 tries at the same time and then summarizing it for you. So they know even the best model they have might have a not so good answer for you. So they just try 4 different approaches and then they choose the best one or select things from the different answers. I think this will be the same. It depends on the compute power you have. The more compute power you have, the bigger models you use, the better the results. If you want to have a fast model that's running on your phone and that doesn't use much power and space, you probably will have bad results in the future as well. But if you say, I don't care about the compute power, let's do it in the cloud, let's use the best models, let's do it multiple times and then summarize it with a different model as well, the results will get better. It always depends on the quality of compute and model you put on there. It's the same with an employee. If you give it to a junior, you get a different level of quality of source code than a staff or lead engineer, right? So it depends on what you give. And the more we continue, the more we get to this like point of singularity. So I think it's 2042 or something, I'm not sure, 48, where all compute of AI will surpass human knowledge and human capability of thinking. So probably it will get better than us. Be aware of this.